Port Charles is about to be shaken to its very core as one of the most beloved characters. Josslyn Jax discovers a truth so explosive it could rewrite her very existence. After the tragic passing of her father, Josslyn, overcome with grief, stumbles upon hidden belongings left behind by Jax. What she uncovers will not only change her view of herself, but could destroy the carefully constructed lives of those she loves the most. Grab a box of tissues, fans. This is a story of secrets, betrayal, family, and shocking identity revelations you won't see coming. Port Charles gathered in somber unity as friends, family, and even past enemies paid their respects to Jax, who had tragically passed in an unexpected accident overseas. The circumstances of his death remained murky, with whispers swirling of foul play, international conspiracies, and long-forgotten grudges. Josslyn, devastated and haunted by guilt over arguments left unresolved, sat in the front row beside her mother, Carly Spencer. Tears stained her cheeks as she listened to the eulogies, some heartfelt, others political, but all painting a portrait of a man who had once stood for integrity and loyalty. At the graveside, as the casket lowered into the earth, Josslyn clutched a small, ornate box her father had once given her. Inside, she believed, lay memories of their better days. Yet it was what she would find later in Jax's private belongings that would break open a reality she never imagined. After the funeral, Josslyn found herself unable to return to the Corinthos compound. The memories of her father felt too raw, too close. Instead, she slipped quietly into Jax's now-empty penthouse, hoping to feel his presence one last time. Among untouched books and half-packed suitcases, she discovered an old cedar trunk labeled only with her initials, JJ, inside. Buried under photo albums and keepsakes from their time in Australia, lay a bundle of sealed letters tied with a black ribbon and a thin, aged journal. Her heart pounded as she opened the journal. The writing was unmistakably Jax's. Each word was carefully written, almost as if it had been meant for her to find. If you're reading this, it means you're old enough to know the truth. I've carried this secret too long, and it's time you knew who you really are, Joss. The words blurred through Josslyn's tears. What could he possibly mean? What truth had been kept from her? Josslyn's hands shook as she read further. Jax's confessions spilled across the pages, revealing a story that felt like it belonged in the most outrageous soap opera plot, and yet, it was her life. Josslyn, you were never meant to be my biological child. After Carly suffered multiple miscarriages, she was desperate to have you. What she never told you, and what I helped cover up, is that your biological father isn't me at all. Josslyn felt her breath catch in her throat. The words on the page blurred as she read them over and over, willing them to change, to become something else. Your true biological father is someone neither of us ever wanted you to know. Sonny Corinthos. The journal slipped from her hands, falling to the ground with a dull thud. The weight of what she'd just read crushed her chest. Sonny, the man she had loved as a stepfather, who had protected her and torn apart her family more times than she could count, was actually her real father? It felt impossible. Unreal. But the words were right there in her father's handwriting. Hours passed, but Josslyn barely moved. Her entire childhood rewound in her mind, every memory suddenly recast in a different light. All those times she'd accused Sonny of destroying her family, all the fights with Carly over Sonny's role in their lives. Had they been arguing about the very man who had given her life? Anger bubbled beneath the grief. How could her parents, both of them, keep something so monumental from her? Did Carly know? Of course she knew. Did Sonny? That was a question that burned in Josslyn's mind. She turned back to the journal, flipping to the next pages, desperate for more answers. Carly and I agreed to keep the truth hidden to protect you from Sonny's enemies. But it wasn't only about safety, Josslyn. Carly loved Sonny then, and part of her always would. It was complicated, messy, but we thought it was the right thing. Josslyn swallowed hard, rage mixing with sorrow. They had made choices for her entire life, choices that belonged to her. If Sonny doesn't know, I beg you not to punish him. I kept the secret as much as Carly did. She snapped the journal shut, tears streaming down her face. The truth was now hers alone, and what she did with it could destroy the family she had left. That night, Josslyn lay awake in Jax's old bedroom, surrounded by a scent, haunted by his words. Her memories played back differently now. The time Sonny saved her during the warehouse fire. The moment he walked her down the aisle at prom when Jax was stuck overseas. His fierce protectiveness whenever danger loomed. Were those gestures of a man driven by love for his stepdaughter, or something deeper? Did Sonny know on some level she was his child? Josslyn's heart ached with longing and confusion. Part of her wanted to run to Sonny, to demand answers, to scream that she finally understood why he always seemed so connected to her. But fear rooted her to the floor. Unable to keep the secret, Josslyn returned to the Corinthos kitchen at dawn. Carly stood at the counter, staring blankly into a mug of coffee, her grief etched in every line on her face. Josslyn dropped the journal onto the counter. "You want to tell me what this is?" Carly's eyes widened, horror and pain flooding her expression. "Joss. It's true, isn't it? Sonny is my biological father." Carly closed her eyes, tears escaping. "Yes. It's true." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the kitchen clock and the sound of Josslyn's own heart pounding. "You lied to me my entire life," Josslyn whispered. "How could you do that to me?" To him. Carly reached for her, but Josslyn recoiled. "We thought we were protecting you." "You weren't protecting me," Josslyn interrupted, her voice shaking. "You were protecting yourselves." The accusation hung heavy between them. The next day, Josslyn found Sonny in his office at Pozzolo's, staring at an old photograph of the two of them. His eyes softened as she entered. "Hey, Joss. How are you holding up?" She struggled to find the words. "I know. About everything." Sonny looked confused. "About what?" Josslyn's voice cracked. "That you're my real father." The color drained from Sonny's face. His hands trembled as he lowered the photograph. "What?" "Josslyn, what are you talking about?" "It's true. I found Dad's journal." Carly admitted it. For a moment, Sonny looked as though the floor had dropped out from under him. I didn't know," he whispered, voice raw with emotion. "Joss, I swear to you, I didn't know." Tears filled her eyes as he crossed the room. "All those years, you were my daughter and I didn't know," he murmured, voice breaking. They stood inches apart, the weight of decades between them. Finally, Sonny reached out, and this time, Josslyn let him pull her into an embrace. Both of them wept for what was lost, what was stolen, and what they still might have. The truth could not be contained. Within days, the secret swept through Port Charles like wildfire. Michael struggled with the news that his sister was, in fact, his half-sister. Avery and Donna were too young to understand, but the family shifted around Josslyn, some offering love, others suspicion. Nina saw a glimmer of hope in the tragedy, believing it might draw Sonny and Josslyn closer, and, by extension, her to Sonny. But Josslyn kept her distance, wary of Nina's motives. Dex, torn between his love for Josslyn and loyalty to Sonny, tried to comfort her, but the new reality strained their bond. Trina, Josslyn's best friend, stood by her side unwaveringly, but even she struggled to understand the depth of Josslyn's anger and confusion. As the storm of revelation swirled, Josslyn returned to her father's grave, her voice trembling. "You lied to me, Dad. But I know you loved me," she whispered, placing a white rose on the fresh earth. "I wish you were here to tell me what to do now." A breeze rustled the trees as if Jax himself answered her, reminding her of the years he had been the only father she knew. "Maybe love isn't about blood," she whispered. "Maybe it's about who stays. And you stayed as long as you could." Weeks passed, and wounds began to scab, though they would never fully heal. Sonny, now knowing the truth, tried to step into a paternal role gently, cautiously. Josslyn resisted at first, but little by little, she allowed him in. Together, they visited Jax's grave. Sonny, voice breaking, thanked Jax for raising his daughter when he couldn't. Josslyn realized she didn't have to choose between them. She could honor Jax's memory while accepting the truth of her biological father. One morning, she stood before Sonny. "You may not have raised me," she said softly, "but you're still my father, and I want you to be part of my life." Tears welled in Sonny's eyes as he pulled her close. "I've always loved you like my own, Joss. Now I can love you truly as my daughter." Life in Port Charles moved on, but everything felt different. Josslyn's anger slowly shifted into acceptance. She began to see Sonny's flaws and choices through a new lens, not excusing them, but understanding them. She also realized Carly had carried unimaginable guilt all these years. One night, Josslyn found her mother crying alone. Without words, she sat beside Carly, resting her head on her shoulder. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start. In the end, the truth, as painful as it was, freed Josslyn from living in a lie. She decided to honor both her fathers, the man who raised her and the man who gave her life. She made a silent promise to live boldly, to speak the truth, and never to let fear dictate her choices. Months later, Carly found one final letter from Jax, written for Josslyn but never sent. She delivered it to her daughter, hands trembling. Josslyn opened it slowly, her heart pounding. "My beautiful Joss, if you're reading this, you know the truth. I can only hope you'll understand that every choice I made was out of love. Blood doesn't make a father, darling. Love does. And no matter what happens, no one can take away the years we shared or the bond we built. Always remember, you are stronger than you know, braver than you feel, and loved beyond measure. Forever proud to be your dad. Jax." Josslyn pressed the letter to her chest, tears falling freely. For the first time in months, her heart felt lighter. She whispered into the night, "I love you too, Dad." Stay tuned, GH fans, because in Port Charles, the past always finds a way back, and the truth is never the end, only the beginning of another chapter.